So a primitive type is predefined by the language and is named by a reserved keyword. So for declaring the integer variable, we use the int keyword. The integer data type is a 32-bit signed to complement integer which has the maximum value of 2 raised to 31 minus 1 and the minimum value is minus 2 raised to 31. So this is the size of the integer data types in Java. Similarly, we have short, which is a 16-bit signed to complement it. The maximum value of short, it is like integer only, but it will take maximum value up to 32,767. If you want to give a higher value which is the higher than 32,767, you have to declare the data type as int. Similarly, we have the concept of data type which is called as byte. It has the maximum value of 127, minimum value of minus 128. It is used for saving memory in large arrays where the memory saving actually matters. Then we have the long data type also, where the maximum value is double than the integer type, that is 2 raised to 63 minus 1. Similarly, Java supports the float data type. We can specify the floating values, that is the decimal values. It takes a single precision 32-bit floating point. So the range of float is not defined here, it is stated it is beyond the scope of the discussions. So for saving the decimal values, it is better that we use the import these packages java.mag.bigdecimals for currencies values. Then we have the double data type. It provides the higher range than the float. The range is also not specified here. Then we have the boolean data type, which can take either true or false. Then we have the character data type, which is 16-bit Unicode characters. The minimum value is /u000, the maximum value is /u_f, that is 65,535. So these are some of the primitive data types that is supported in Java. This is called primitive since we use the preserved keyword which is already defined in Java. That is, for declaring the integer variable, we will use integer variable. If it is a value which is higher than 32,767, if the value is up to 32,767, we will define the data type as short. Even if it is less than that, we can define the data type as byte. And if it is very higher than the values, that is 2 raised to 31 minus 31, we can declare the data type as long. It will take the value up to 2 raised to 63 minus 1, the maximum value. Then for decimals, we have the float and double. Also we have the boolean and the character data type. So these are the predefined data types in Java language. Now we have the concept of autoboxing and unboxing. So autoboxing does the conversion from the primitive to the wrapper class. So for all these data types, there is corresponding wrapper class. Like for int, there is a wrapper class which is called as integer. You can see the definition of the wrapper class. So it is a class whose object wraps or contains the primitive data type. So just now we have seen the different data types which are supported in Java. For each and every data type there is a corresponding wrapper class which can hold the primitive data type. So it is a class whose object wraps or contains the primitive data types. When we create an object to a wrapper class, it contains a field, and in this field we can store the primitive data type. So wrapper class is used for storing the primitive data type. In wrapper class we create the object of the particular class that we need. So it is the conversion which is done, that is the primitive data types are converted into objects, the class objects, that is the wrapper class objects. Like we have, for integer we have one class which is called as integer. So if you want to convert the integer value into a wrapper class, we will create one object of the wrapper class integer I, and we will store the value of integer into this corresponding wrapper class. That is called as autoboxing. Converting from the primitive data type to the corresponding wrapper class is called as autoboxing. We can see the definition here. First we will so these are the notes that I will mail to you. Now see the definition of the autoboxing. So autoboxing is the automatic conversion the Java compiler makes between the primitive types and their corresponding object wrapper class. So for every primitive data type there is a corresponding wrapper class. So if you want to convert the data from the primitive to the wrapper class, we will have to create the object of the wrapper class. Then we have to store the value of the primitive into the wrapper class. So for example, we can convert the integer primitive to a corresponding wrapper class which is called as integer. We can convert a primitive data type like double to the wrapper class which is called as double. So we can see the example here. So one object of the array list is created. Array list is nothing but the collection which is used to store the elements. So here we are creating the object of the list, that is the wrapper class object we are creating. So integer object to li. The code compiles because li is a list of integers, object not a list of int values. You may wonder why Java compiler does not issue a compile time error. The compiler does not error because it creates an integer object from I and adds the object to li. So here one object of integer is created which is called as li. So here these are the primitive data types, integer values. Now you can see the difference here. Understand this code. So this is the primitive data type, integer I equals to 1, I less than 50, I equals to I plus 2. So it will take the values from 1, it will increment by 2, that is 1, 3, 5. It will store all the odd numbers starting from 1 till 50. So we are taking the primitive types. We have declared the I as integer which is nothing but the primitive data type of integer. Now we are converting this integer values to the wrapper class object. We are creating one object of the integer I. Okay, so one wrapper class object we are creating, and in that wrapper class object which is called as li, we are adding the primitive data type which is nothing but the small I. So li here is nothing but the wrapper class object, and small I is the object of the primitive data type. So we are converting the primitive data type to the corresponding wrapper class object, which is nothing but integer. Here we are storing the integer into the collection which is called as list. So try to understand the difference. So this is the primitive data type. The primitive data type is stored into the corresponding object of the wrapper class integer, which is called as li, and li is stored into the collection which is nothing belongs to the object of collection which is called as list. So this is called as autoboxing, converting the primitive type to the corresponding wrapper class object. Here again the one function is implemented which is called as the event function. It will check whether all the uh, numbers which are divisible by 2, that is the even number. So here again we are taking the integer I, which is now the collection we have defined li. All the values are stored into the li. We are checking if the numbers is divisible by 2, then we are doing sum is equals to sum plus I, return sum. So we are checking from the wrapper class object, we are checking the primitive data types. So this is the you can see the definition of the autoboxing. Converting a primitive value into an object of the corresponding wrapper class is called as autoboxing. So this is the definition of autoboxing you have to remember. Converting a primitive value, an int for example, into an object of corresponding wrapper class is called as autoboxing. So this is the definition we have seen. Here the integer variables we have created the wrapper class object. We have stored the primitive data type to the corresponding wrapper class object, which is called as li. Similarly, the feature of unboxing is there. So in the unboxing we will convert the wrapper class object into the primitive data types. So it is the reverse process or the opposite process of the autoboxing. In the autoboxing we are converting the primitive data type to the corresponding wrapper class object, whereas in unboxing we are converting from the wrapper class object to the primitive data type. So here we can see one integer object which is called as I is created. So this is the wrapper class object. We are storing the value of -8 into the I variable. Okay, so this is autoboxing. They are storing some primitive values into the wrapper class object. So in the autoboxing we will retrieve the value from the wrapper class to the primitive data type. So here we are defining one primitive data type which is called as int. We are taking the absolute value of I, that is negative value will be removed and plus value will be stored. So here we are doing the conversions, that is converting the wrapper class object to the primitive data type. So it is the reverse process of autoboxing. So you can see the primitive data type. For every primitive data type there is a corresponding wrapper class. For boolean, the wrapper class is boolean. So if you want to store some object of the boolean, we have to create the object of the wrapper class boolean b. Similarly for integer, we are using the I as capital. So whenever we are using the wrapper class, the initial letter is capital, and we are creating one object of the wrapper class and storing the value of the primitive data type into the wrapper class. That is called as autoboxing. In unboxing we are doing the reverse process, converting the process of converting the primitive to the wrapper class is called as autoboxing, and the reverse, that is from wrapper class to the primitive, it is called as unboxing. You can see the conversion between numbers and string also. So the command line arguments are by default considered as strings. So what is command line arguments? In Java we see that everything that we pass to the program is nothing but a command line arguments. So in the command line arguments we will see what happens exactly. I will show you the one example. So here ARGS is nothing but the array of strings. We can retrieve the value that we are passing through the command line. We'll declare some variables. So we are writing one program, we are retrieving the value of the command line arguments. So you can see the command line arguments, whatever we are passing, that is args0 we can retrieve. Okay, so that is was our error. We have given the comma sign there. So when we are running the program of command line arguments, now here we are running the program. Here now we are passing the parameters. Like name we can pass the any name like. So here the first argument we are passing, that is the argument 0. So you can now understand why we have written public static void main args 0. Java considers everything in the form of string arguments. So here we have compiled the programs, there are no errors. So when we are running the program, we are passing the arguments. So this is the argument 0. So when the program is run, whatever the argument we have passed, you can see that arguments have been printed here. You have entered Aniket. So have you understood this command line arguments? During runtime, whatever the value we pass to the Java program, that are called, that are considered as arguments. So the first value that we will pass, that will go into the argument 0. We are retrieving and storing it in the string variable name. So now we are printing the value, that is you have entered plus name. So that is what is meant by command line arguments. Yes, students, have got the concept of command line arguments. Okay. So why we write public static void main string args? Because during runtime we can pass the arguments. That arguments are nothing but the command line arguments. We can give the name value parameter. So the first parameter goes to the argument 0. Second parameter goes to the second arguments. Like here we can change the program also. Suppose if we want to take the second name, so again we will define here. So now this is the argument 1. We can print the argument 1 also here. Now this will be the second argument. Means now when we compile the program, so now this is the first argument Aniket. Then we can pass the second arguments. Okay, that is we can give the last name. So this is the argument 0 and this is the argument 1. So when we pass those arguments, you can see the first argument is called as argument 0, the second one is called argument 1. So this is the command line arguments. Now coming to the point of wrapper class, we were doing autoboxing and unboxing, we were seeing that points. So here we were, now you can understand this point. So you can see there, whatever the argument is there, that is the argument 0, it is converted to the primitive type by using value dot of, float dot value of. Okay, whatever the value we are passing here, it is converting to the floating data type. So in the arguments, we are Java considered the arguments in the form of strings, but now here the strings are converted to the numbers by using this function, that is float dot value of. So it will convert the string value into the floating data types. So this is the example of unboxing. So you can see that value of, it converts the string from the command line and converts them into the number. Okay. So float dot value of argument 0 We will take the value of argument 0, convert it into float by using dot float value. Similarly, the second argument is also converted into the floating type variables. Now we can check if the argument length means only 2 arguments are passed, then only the conversion will be done, and we can store the sums and retrieve the value. So in the same example that we have seen, the arguments that was considered as strings. Now these arguments, we can convert them into the form of numbers by using this conversion factors value of float dot value of, if we want to convert into integer, we can use the integer dot value of argument 0 dot int value. So here we will convert the arguments into the string arguments into the integer arguments. We can read both the arguments like integer b equals to so normally when we are passing the arguments, they are considered in the form of strings. Now we are converting the string arguments into the corresponding integer arguments. So this is the converting from the wrapper class to the primitive data type. It is called as unboxing. So now we will run this program. So when we are running the program, first we have to compile the program. Again we will run the program. So the arguments, we will give it as 1 first argument. The second argument we will get it as 2. So when we are passing the arguments, Java considers in the form of strings. We are converting the string arguments into the integer data type by using integer dot value of. That is, we are doing the conversion from the strings, converting from the string to the integer type by using the integer dot value of. So now we will check whether the program is running or not. So you can see the string arguments that were passed to the Java has been converted to the integer data type. Then only we can perform the addition. We can see the sum is 3 because the value of arguments is converted to the integer value. Integer dot value of argument 0. This converts the command line arguments into the integer value. So we are using this function integer dot value of. So this is the example of unboxing. So So the number subclasses that pass primitive types and provides each class method name value of that converts a string to an object of that type. So here we are using the value of that converts the string from the command line into the numbers. So remember this definition. So converting an object of wrapper class to its corresponding primitive value is called as unboxing. So these two definition we have seen. Converting a primitive, first we have seen the primitive data types. The primitive data types is integer, character, float, double, byte, short. The maximum range of each data type we have seen, boolean, char. The default values for the data type also it is given here. For integer 0, for long it is 0L, for float it is 0.0F, for double it is 0.0D, for string it is a null, for boolean it is default value is false for the boolean. So this is where we can define the double data type, we can define the float data type. When we are using the float data type, we can use the F along with the decimal values. So these are the escape sequence that we have seen in C language also. /T for tap, /N for new line, /F for form fit, /R for carriage return, single quote, double quote, /N hyphen sign. So this was the definition. Autoboxing is the automatic conversion of the Java compiler makes between the primitive types to their corresponding wrapper class. For every primitive we have seen there is a corresponding wrapper class. For int there is an integer. Similarly for the boolean there is a boolean. The wrapper class name begins with the capital letter. So we have seen this example of the integer where the primitive data type was declared as int starting from I to 50. We are storing this primitive type to the wrapper class object which is called as integer I, li. Similarly we are converting the, so this was the definition of converting the int to the primitive data type which is called as integer is called as autoboxing. Similarly in the case of unboxing, from the wrapper class to the corresponding primitive type is called as unboxing. So here we have seen the integer which was consisting of the wrapper class. We are converting into the primitive type by using int. So here the integer which indicates it is a wrapper class object, we are converting into the primitive type which is called as int. So this is all about today's lecture. So we have seen the different data types, we have seen the definition of the autoboxing. Also we have seen the command line arguments, how we can pass command line arguments to the Java program, how we can convert the command line arguments into the numeric values by using the functions which are available, that is value of. So we are converting the wrapper class object to the primitive data type. So this is the examples of unboxing. So now I will take the attendance. आवे शंतिमा पाल, मंगल गुप्ता, सूरज रातोरे, विश्वनाथ रामपुर. So only 5 are there today.